Now the queen stepped in front of her mirror once more and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?" The mirror answered, "You, my queen, may have a beauty quite rare, but little Snow White's alive. This I must tell. She's with the dwarfs and doing quite well. Indeed, she's still 1,000 times more fair." When the queen heard this once again, she trembled and shook with rage. "Little Snow White shall die," she exclaimed, "even if it costs me my own life." Yeah, well, that's an enemy that's pretty hard to stand up against, someone who will light themselves on fire just to singe you. And if you don't think people are capable of that kind of hatred at all cost, then you don't know much about human psychopathology. Those people who shoot up schools and then commit suicide when they could just as easily do things in the reverse order and save everyone a lot of trouble. It's like they're capping off of their murderous rage with their own self-destruction is actually part of the art. They know perfectly well that even if their motivation is suicidal, that the biggest manifestation of resentment and spite with regards to the structure of reality and their fellow man and their own spirit and God himself is to create the maximum amount of mayhem possible in the most viciously sadistic way, and to cap that off with a demonstration that even their own life is worth nothing, especially in relationship to their desire for revenge and their capacity for spite. Then she went into a secret chamber where no one was allowed to enter. So this is like the heart of her poison, right? So the bodice was one thing, the stays, the corset. The poison comb was another. This gets to the heart of the matter. She goes to where the most genuine evil is made manifest. Once inside, she made a deadly poisonous apple. Well, why an apple? Well, an apple is the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right? The apple is the thing that you incorporate that changes you. The apple is information. The apple is education. The apple is ideology. The apple is an idea rather than an artifact, right? That's what it's symbolic of. That's what it represents. And so the first kinds of poison or death that the pathological evil queen attempts to administer to Snow White are pretty straightforward and basic, right? They're appeals to her own vanity in the form of pathologization of her attractiveness. But this is a deeper form of poison, right? It's a poison that strikes right to the soul. Remember, it's the consuming of the apple that is the original sin that knocks Adam and Eve out of paradise. The poisoned apple is, what is it? It's pathological knowledge, right? I think it's exactly the same as the symbolic representation of the kind of evil doctrine that young women are fed by jealous, miserable, single, bitter, envious, resentful old women to knock them out of the mating game, partly to reduce competition and partly just out of self-destructive spite. A deadly poisonous apple. On the outside, it looked beautiful with red cheeks, right? Red cheeks. So the apple is red cheeks. It's emblematic of health itself, of flourishing health, right? If you wanted to be a healthy young woman, this is obviously the apple that you would eat. And that's exactly what young women are taught in today's universities, right? To pursue that path of career that now has left the prioritization of self-interest. It's not precisely career. The prioritization of narrow self-interest that compromises their youth and leaves 50% of women in the West childless at the age of 30, with the probability that 90% of them will regret that as the years pass by. Apple, beautiful with red cheeks. Anyone who saw it would be enticed to take a bite. Well, so this is propaganda in its most attractive form. It's like, well, if this is what you were offered, of course you'd take it. It sounds like you could have it all. Young women, you can have it all. Yeah, well, the question is, who's offering that particular apple? And what exactly is their motivation? We're just looking out for our younger sisters. It's like, yeah, maybe you're looking out for them, and maybe you're a manifestation of the evil queen whose fundamental motivation is to devour their liver and lungs. Yeah, well, thereafter she disguised herself as a peasant woman, a lowly woman, not a haughty beauty, went to the dwarf's cottage and knocked on the door. Little Snow White looked and said, "I'm not allowed to have anyone inside. The 7 dwarfs have strictly forbidden me." "Well, if you don't want to let me in, I can't force you," answered the delightful peasant woman, right, emblematic of the oppressed working class. "I'll surely get rid of my apples in time. I have something that everyone wants, obviously, but let me give you one to test." Another manifestation of her evil making itself camouflaged in the guise of care and compassion. "No," said little Snow White, "I'm not allowed to take anything. The dwarfs won't let me." Yeah, well, you see, that's the sensible manifestation of the ordinary productive patriarchal impulse inside her, protecting herself from the depredations of predatory competitive females. "You're probably afraid." "Yeah," said the old woman. "Look, I'll cut the apple in 2. You eat the beautiful red half." However, the apple had been made with such cunning that only the red part was poisoned. When little Snow White saw the peasant woman eating her half, and when her desire to taste the apple grew stronger, she finally let the peasant woman give her the other half through the window. As soon as she took a bite of the apple, she fell to the ground and was dead. The queen rejoiced, went home and asked the mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is the fairest of them all?" And the mirror answered, "You, my queen, are now the fairest of all." So the evil queen produced the pathological fruit of knowledge that dooms Snow White to death, administering it under the guise of compassion and caring in the form of a fruit so attractive that anyone with eyes would be tempted to take it. Brutal. "Now I can rest in peace," she said. "Once again, I'm the most beautiful in the land, and Snow White will remain dead this time." So, couldn't kill her with the bodice or the corset, couldn't kill her with the poisonous comb, but could certainly kill her with the consumption of the fatal apple. When the dwarfs came home from the mines that evening, they found little Snow White lying on the ground, and she was dead. They unlaced her and tried to find something poisonous in her hair, but nothing helped. They couldn't revive her. Okay, so what does that mean? The core element of the evil queen is so unbelievably pathological, so destructive, that ordinary, conscientious, diligent, protective masculinity is revealed as insufficient to redress the poison. Right. So that's why the queen, the prince has to come along. Right. It's only the higher order form of masculinity that's associated with true nobility and true courage that has the archetypal force, you might say, to provide true protection from the depredations of the evil queen. Well, Snow White is the helpmeet of the dwarfs, right? But there's no individualized relationship there. She hasn't moved beyond cooperation with the social patriarchy as such to the establishment of a personalized relationship with an individual and identifiable man, right? So she's still in the land of generic masculinity. And that's a hell of a lot better than the land of pathological evil queen destructive femininity, but it's not a relationship that's of sufficient depth and intensity to provide protection against the most fatal of feminine poisons.